Hey, it's Mike Gaube's Headbangers, and on the line, bass player Anthony Esposito. Dude, it's been forever since I've talked to you, man. What is going on?
Yeah, it's been crazy. Lots and lots have been going on. We just wrapped up. Patina was mixed by Max Norman and mastered by Roger Leon, and we just released the first video to it last weekend. The song is called Havana, and from the response we're getting, it seems like people dig it.
Well, dude, let me tell you, first of all, yeah, we're talking about Red Dragon Cartel. You're the bass player, Jakey Lee. He's back. He's been back for a while now. And I saw the video, man. It's pretty badass, but like I told you in a text, no Fumar, Jake. No Fumar. Stop the smoking, man. But I guess that's still...
It was minus 10. We shot the video in my barn.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, well, I have a ranch.
Right.
My horse ranch, I have a recording studio on my horse ranch. And that's where we recorded and did the whole entire record. And then I have a barn, an old bank barn, like pre-Civil War. And the record was called Patina. So we figured, why not shoot the video in the barn? There's plenty of patina on the wood in there. And it was freezing. It was like 10 below zero in the barn. So I think he was just lighting the cigarette to keep warm.
The ember glow is keeping Jake warm.
Yeah,
dude.
Well, he and I chain smoke anyway. So
well, you just mentioned a name that, man, I've always been a fan of his work. But Max Norman, which of course he did Wicked Sensation, right?
Sure. Well, that was the common denominator. Like Jake and I were talking, and he did Bark at the Moon and he did Wicked Sensation when I was in Lynch Mob. So we're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we got Max involved on this CD sometime, some way? And Jake was like, oh, that'd be awesome. So Max came out to the ranch and heard the tracks that we were cutting, and he's like, I want to mix it. And we're like, okay, cool. So yeah, so we got to have him behind the console and mix it. You know?
That's awesome, because some of my favorite records have been done by him. And he's done so much great stuff throughout the years.
Yeah, all the Randy Rhoads, the Blizzard of Oz, Diary, did all the Megadeth. I mean, the reason, the one CD, it's really weird. I tell the story all the time. How we picked him to do Wicked was George and I and Oni. We would always drive around the desert in Phoenix when we were working on Wicked Sensation, and I had a cassette of Dirty Look. Cool from the Wire. Oh yeah. And Max Cool from the Wire, and George was like, who did this? Who produced this? And I was like, Max, some guy Max. And he goes, oh, we should tell management to get him. And then I didn't know that he did all the Ozzy stuff, and I didn't know I just knew him from Dirty Looks. Little did I know, right?
Right.
But yeah, he's great, amazing. He came out, we had a blast, and he was a pleasure to work with, and you know. We're happy with the way it came out, you know.
Now, speaking of Lynch Mob, you told me something right before we started this interview about your debut Lynch Mob show. You gotta repeat that, man, because today was
September
history.
7th. That was the date of the first Lynch Mob show. I believe it was definitely 1990. And the way that I know it is, it's also my son. My son was born on that day, and we booked this small, tiny bar in Arizona called the Mason Jar.
Yeah.
And God bless Franco. And we didn't want anybody to show up. And so we pick up the weirdest name that we could possibly have so people wouldn't show up. And we tried to piss everybody off. So we came up with the name Gay Black Nazi Bikers for Christ. And it backfired in our face because KUPD was reading the New Times, and they're like, oh my God, there's this band playing the Mason Jar called Gay Black Nazi Bikers Crest. We gotta go see them.
Right.
And it ended up being packed, and it was our first show ever as Lynch Mob, and we didn't want anybody there. We wanted to just blow the dust off it on a stage, you know, quiet and just friends. And so after sound check, I ran to the hospital, and my wife Melissa gave birth to my son Tyler. Then I ran back into the gig, and then after the gig, I ran back to the hospital. And it was that's how I remember it. It was the first show of Lynch Mob. Gay Black Nazi Bikers for Christ.
That's a damn good story because, George has told it and Mick has told it. And when Mick was talking about it, Franco was like freaking about, he'll imitate Franco's accent. And he's like,
oh, yeah,
how do I put that on the sign?
Yeah. We did a deal with him where the first 2 shows would be Gay Black Nazi Bikers for Christ shows. And then the last 2 of the 4 would be billed as Lynch Mob. So the first 2, I actually still have my Gay Black Nazi Bikers for Christ laminates.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Well, dude, I just thought of something. That was kind of the ritual, I guess, right? At the Mason Jar, because when you guys got back together with the Syzygy album and then went out and Oni kind of bailed on you and you got John West, you did those 3 warm-up shows at the Mason Jar, and that's when I first met you.
Yeah, that was ages ago.
Oh, yes, it was. I think that was like 97 or 98, right?
Yeah, it's right around there, 98,
and
I think.
I remember several different things, but the last night Franco took us to a swingers club.
Yep.
Remember?
Yep, I remember that. It was crazy.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember that.
Oh, my God.
And George got into a fight.
Well, yeah, again, we'll just leave it all at that. And then, the other thing about Franco is back then, I don't know if he still has it, but he had that Corvette that I guess Rob Halford had given him.
Right.
Remember? And it was like Heavy Metal 4 on the license plate. And the weird thing about it, somehow the tail end was extended, and it had this weird like shape to it. It almost looked like you could have a hot tub. Do you remember that?
Very vaguely.
Vaguely. And Franco is still around, dude. He still has the jewelry, and now he wears like the Crocs clogs.
Oh, he doesn't wear the wooden clogs.
Right.
And he always had the Kangol hat and the suspenders.
Yes. Well, no, I haven't seen him in suspenders, but yeah, the hat, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, I remember that 98 show. We didn't have a drummer, and Mick didn't want to do it. Mick went back to Dokken, I think. So I grabbed my drummer, Bobby Ray from my band, 13. Yeah. And then we didn't have a singer. We tried a bunch of guys. I remember Robert was going to do it, and then last minute, like 3 days before the first show, he bailed on us. And we didn't have a singer. And then we tried like 1 or 2 guys, and then somebody's like, you got to get John West. And we really had no other options. And he's like, I know every song. I know everything. I could walk in and just sing it. So we kind of like got stuck with him for that run, and think any of us were too happy with having him on board. But whatever, we did the dates.
Yeah, I remember that very well, man. There was some crazy times back then, Mr. Esposito. That's all I gotta say. Yeah, it was
like we had 1 rehearsal with him, and then we played those shows.
Yeah, he had the lyrics on pieces of paper, and
yeah, exactly.
Yep. But anyway, so fast forward to today, man. You've played with some iconic freaking guitar players, George Lynch, and of course Ace, and now Jakey Lee.
There's a lot more. I was in a band called Pistol with Richard Fortus from Guns N' Roses and Frank Frere, the drummer from Guns N' Roses. And then when Richard Fortus left, we got Bumblefoot. And then I played with Jason Hook from Five Finger Death Punch.
That's right.
I had to bail out. Jimmy DeAnder called me and asked me if I could sub for Lonnie for a week in Bullet Boys, and it was Jimmy DeAnder and Jason Hook and myself and Mark Tureen for a week. And then, it seems like I get to play with all these great guitar players. And I was with Ace for 7 years, and obviously George for God knows how long, off and on. It seemed like, it was the first 4 or 5 years, and then I'd go back for a year, and then I'd quit, and then I'd go back again for a year, and then quit again. And but yeah, it was kind of weird. And then now I play with Jake, and Jake's just insanely talented, insanely gifted, best guitar player I've ever played with by far. And he's just a complete, well-rounded musician. He's classically trained pianist, and he just he hears things that I don't even know exist. Like he's so gifted and so talented, and then his guitar playing's phenomenal. It's there's a reason why he's in the conversation, whenever they name the best guys. He's incredibly talented.
Well, all right, we're going to rewind just a tad. I finally remembered what I was going to talk about. So when you got to that drummer, Bobby Ray, and I remembered his first name, but I couldn't remember his last name. The funny thing is, here's a black drummer in Lynch Mob. That
Oh
was
yeah,
always
it's crazy. It
the
was
running
hilarious.
joke.
Because like the whole thing, like we were driving around and we heard on the radio ads for the show, and like it was like Lynch Mob returns to the Valley, and they're playing like Wicked in the background, like, and then for 3 nights at the Mason Jar, and then the ad ends, bring your rope, and like Bobby and I were driving around. I think we went to the mall one day and we heard that in the car, and he's like, "Holy shit, they're gonna hang me! They're gonna hang me!" And then it was funny because right around that time, I think Pulp Fiction came out. And there I was with, like, you know, the long black hair and the ponytail. And then there's Bobby, you know, and it was supposed to roll to Samuel Jackson. And wherever we went, we would get followed, like mall security or whatever. It was so funny. It was like Pulp Fiction. We had a blast.
Anyway, so okay, back to this new record. I'm so much looking forward to it, and dude, you got to play me some at some point over the phone before this thing comes out. Otherwise, I'm not going to feel special.
We're so happy. We're so proud of it. Everybody. I mean, we've Darren James Smith is the singer of Red Dragon Cartel. Pretty much has always only been the only singer. Besides that summer where we were auditioning guys on the road, none of them were part of the band. And he just did a fantastic job on the record singing. And then we recruited Phil Verone from Saigon Kick and Skid Row, and he played drums on it. And he did a fantastic job. And the band's, you know, it's a great lineup, and we can't wait to get out and play it for people and let them see this band live, because that's what it's built for. You know, we're a live band, you know.
Yeah, now you mentioned a couple singers that, you know, kind of filled in while Darren had, you know, let's go back to where he had that, was it the Whiskey, or where were you at, that, of course, got on the internet, blew up, he was messed up, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was before I joined, so I've never even seen the show.
Oh, that's right. Okay, you weren't even in the band. But anyway, yeah, he had his troubles, and then Michael Beck from here in Arizona filled in for a little bit, and he did sing while you were in it.
He did like 5 shows, and
yeah.
We had a couple other guys do 4 or 5 shows, and you know, it's one thing to get into a rehearsal room and have a guy come down and sing for 2 hours, and it's another thing to have a guy on the tour bus with you 24/7 and see how he acts in front of a crowd, and on the bus if you can get along with him, and it's more of a truer audition process. And we ended up going back with Darren. Jake did. Jake's the boss. He makes all the calls, and he wanted Darren back, and he got Darren back. And the first gig I did with Darren was outside on Sunset Strip by the Rainbow. We did that gig, that outside gig, and that was his return.
Now, did Chaz West sing for a little bit too?
Yeah, he was in it for like 4 or 5 shows, I think.
Okay, because it's interesting, this like circle of musicians, because, you know, Chaz sang with George for quite some time.
Yeah, I always laughed whenever Blabbermouth runs anything about the band. They feel obligated to list all of the singers that auditioned that, and they never credit me, Lynch Mob, and they always credit Chaz West.
Oh, no way. No way.
It's like I was never in the band, I guess. But Chaz was.
Yeah, right. Oh, and then, of course, another Arizona resident, Greg Chason, of course, the original Badlands bass player. He filled in for a little while. And I'm so bummed. Here's the deal, dude. You know, you shouldn't believe everything you see or read or whatever, because the reason I didn't go to the Marquee show in Tempe was because of the footage I saw of Darren messed up. And I was like, yeah, you know, they weren't. I wasn't feeling it. But it was like Greg came in and I think lit a fire under Jake's ass. And from what I understood, they just killed it, and they've been killing it. You know, what I'd done was, I'll be honest with you, I went to Ted Nugent the night before, and it was hard for me to take time off from my radio job at the time up there. So now, in retrospect, as much as I love, and that was back when, you know, Wild Mick was with Ted, I'd always love to go see Wild Mick. I became friends with Greg Smith, and of course, Ted's always entertaining, but I'm really bummed I missed Red Dragon Cartel. So now, dude, you've got to bring this to Arizona, and I promise you I will be there. Well, this lineup, is the last lineup. It wasn't. I don't know. I didn't. Well, obviously not including Greg, because Greg's an accomplished bass player and has the history with Badlands and stuff. But the lineup I thought was weird.
and from the get-go. You had a singer playing drums, a guitar player playing bass. Neither had done anything. And then, Darren is a drummer in Harem Scarum. He does sing lead vocals in a lot of other stuff, but he's predominantly known for drummer and for his drumming. And I just thought it was really weird, and that whole first initial lineup. And then you pick your first gig at the Whiskey in L.A. That, it's just odd. It was just odd. I thought the choices were kind of weird, but I had no, I wasn't involved at all. I think I was in Ace's band when that happened. So.
Yeah, you still were, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so.
Which I never got to see Ace and you play together. In fact, dude, I haven't seen you play since, I think, back in the shows we were talking about with Mason Jar.
Yeah.
So it's been that freaking long, dude. Come on.
I love that.
Hook a brother up.
Oh, we're definitely going to play. We'll definitely play Arizona eventually. We don't have any dates booked yet. We're just trying to figure it out. We kind of want to go out with somebody, either open for somebody or co-headline with someone. And then the only thing that we have booked right now is Japan in next spring. We don't have any dates booked yet, and the CD's not released until November. So we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you for the release date. Do you have an actual hard date or just November?
I believe it's November 9th, the last I was told, but that could change,
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what goes on,
You guys, you think you might end up on one of the cruises? I think the next Monsters of Rock cruise is pretty much set in stone, but you know what I mean? You could always jump on that.
I don't know if Jake likes to do cruises.
Oh.
I don't know. He's the boss. He calls the shots, and I just basically whatever he says, I do. It's entirely up to him. But I think they did it once, and I think that was enough for him. But I'm not sure of his complete feeling on it.
He didn't like having sea legs afterwards.
He doesn't like lines, and cruises are all lines. You wait, check in, then you wait to get on the boat, then you got to get on line to get off the boat. It's just line after line, and he's not really a line kind of guy.
So we're not going to go to Six Flags with Jakey Lee, right?
No, I don't think so.
We'll get the fast pass.
I mean, we can't wait to tour, and we're just waiting for the right thing. I don't really think we want to go out and play the bars again by ourselves. I think we actually want to be part of something, Well,
let me ask you this. Ideally, what band would you like to hook up with? Whether it's...
Well, you know what? It's hard. It's very difficult because we're not a retro band like, any of those bands.
Right.
So, Warrant, Mr. Big, Enough's Enough. We don't have that marquee value that a retro band would have from past history, So it's Red Dragon Cartel. So it's basically a new band. And there was talk about when Jake renegotiated the contract to rename it, just call it Jakey Lee. And Jake didn't want to go with that. Jake wanted to keep it a band name. So we're Red Dragon Cartel. So it's kind of difficult. We probably would have more marquee value if it was just Jakey Lee. But being Red Dragon Cartel, it kind of puts us in this weird position where, people want to show up and hear Bark at the Moon, and but it's a new band. So it's kind of a weird enigma, it's a puzzle on where we fit. And I mean, we'd love to tour with anyone that we like, like the Teslas and the Queensryches and Alice Cooper, Priest, any of those bands, that we would love to tour with bands like that, but it's tough because it is a fall release. Most bands don't tour in the fall and winter; they tour in the spring and summer, and we have slim pickings, I guess. Who knows what's going to happen, But we do need to play, and we do need to support this album and bring the music to the people, and I just hope people hear the record because we took a year and a half to make it. It's not one of those CDs that, we wrote in the studio over a weekend and recorded it for a week and it was done. We wrote for months and then we recorded for a year and a half, you
Wow.
know, and it was this ongoing process, and we didn't rush it, and we treated it as if it was Jake's last CD that he's ever going to make. So we wanted it to be special, and he had this guitar arsenal of like 30 vintage guitars, and then like
That's a great word,
15
guitarsenal. I love it.
yeah, vintage amps, and then cases and cases full of boutique, weird, old vintage pedals and reverbs and tape echoes, and he would try every part through everything, and until he got a tone that he felt that part was deserving of, and my son did a lot of the engineering. My son Tyler is a great engineer, and he worked predominantly with Jake. Jake likes to work overnights. They would start at like 11 or 12 at night and go. And Tyler would go out there with him, and they would painstakingly go through guitars and amp combinations and pedal combinations, and change the order of the pedals, and change different cabinets with different speakers and different heads. And he really went through and made every note count, you know, and that's what took a year and a half, and Tyler was there with him every step of the way, you know.
You know, it's kind of funny, and maybe you'll agree, maybe not, because you've worked with, George is very much always going for the tone, a lot of these guitars. Yeah. And to me, it really starts in their fingers, man.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? And totally. It's like George, and I think even Jake, and there's other guitarists too, that could pick up any guitar, play through any amp, and they play some licks, and you're gonna know who it is.
Yes and no. Yeah, I mean, we back in the day, we would switch George's amps live, and he wouldn't even notice, you know, like Ralph, our sound man back in the day. Like, I mean, even one gig, I remember we threw a Fender Princeton up, little combo, and it still sounded the same. But Jake is more of he's not searching for the tone, he's searching for the tone for that part, the coloring and the voicing, the coloring of the tone to fit the voicing of that part, and how he wants to present that melody on the guitar. It's a different thing than like George searching for the holy grail tone,
right?
Which is sort of a blanket tone that, you know, will be used. Jake is more per part, per selection, per section. You know, the verse might be a 57 Gretsch through an old Silvertone, and then for his clean, he'll grab like a 57 Strat through like a Roland JC120, and then for his gritty part, he might be using like a 62 SG through like an old Plexi Marshall, you know, and that they painstakingly went through. The two of them went through the tones for every part, and until they got it right, and then Jake would lay it down, you know, and then they'd move to the next part, go through the process.
Well, that's really interesting. That sounds really cool. But the question comes up then: how does he recreate all that live? You know.
Well, that's live is live. You know, live is a different animal, and you know, it's not going to be the same live. It's going to be, I mean, if people wanted to hear it exactly like the record, then they could stay home and just put the CD on and play it really loud.
I agree with you there. Absolutely.
Live is energy. Live is moving air. Live is a momentary excitement of the moment. And I'm sure he'll have a combination. He's not going to take out one guitar and, you know, one pedal. I'm sure he'll have options to get close to what he did on the record. But I doubt it's going to be exact, and I wouldn't want it to be, you know, because people pay money to share that moment with the band, and they're not sharing the moment that we had in the studio a year ago when we recorded it. You know, they're sharing that moment of us playing it live, and we'll screw up, and you know, there'll be that human element of that moment. That's the specialty of it, you know.
Yeah, dude, you're like a musical philosopher. And no, I agree with you though, dude. I don't care, man. I just want to see y'all play. But that's going to be really cool to hear the record as Jake wants it, and then of course to see it live will be amazing. Now, a couple things I do remember we used to text quite a bit when you were on the road. You were doing
I
a lot
wanted to buy your Mustang.
Yeah, well,
but I was broke at the time.
You lost out, man. Yeah, Anthony won my 71 Mach 1, and missed out on that.
Oh my God, did I want it so badly.
I know. Well, I still want it back.
I'm rocking a 74 Chevy K20 4-speed pickup now. It's my beast.
Nice. Now, what about the writing process?
We came in with Jonas, who was the drummer at the time. We got together. It was Jake, myself, Tyler, my son, Dave, son, who's like another member of the band kind of guy, and then we all got together on my ranch, and we jammed loudly every night in a small space and started working on licks and arrangements. And Dave recorded it on his phone, and then we'd start laying out the song. We stopped for Christmas of December of 2015, and then Jake renegotiated his contract with the record label, and then we started again. We rehearsed the songs with Phil for about 2 weeks, and then we tracked drums and bass, and then we started the writing of lyrics and melodies, and Jake started tracking guitar, and that took about a year.
So here's a thought for you. All right, I personally like the name Red Dragon Cartel. Have they thought about saying Jake E. Lee's Red Dragon Cartel, or is he against that? Because then you get both.
Well, no, I mean, he's not against it. It's just too many words. I mean, you think about a marquee in front of a theater or a club, and that's a lot of letters to be climbing up and down that ladder and putting on the marquee.
Not as many as Franco had to do with the gay black Nazi bikers.
True.
Whatever it was. Well, hey, here's a suggestion. I mean, they're already out on the road, but man, if you could get hooked up with like the Dead Daisies or something, how perfect would that be?
Well, I thought a perfect run would be. Well, I had a couple ideas that I was trying to get to go. One was opening for Ozzy, and then Jake could do the encore and come out and do Bark at the Moon.
Oh, that'd be badass.
But Sharon said no. And then the other one I wanted was a Black and Red tour, which would be Black Label Society and Red Dragon Cartel, which would be Zach and Jake, the two living guitar players, ex-Ozzy, that people care about, and Black and Red tour.
I like that.
But Zach's out with Ozzy, so we can't do that. And then there's a bunch of ideas, you know. I mean, it's really hard. Like, I mean, we'd love to go out with like Rival Sons or something
Rival
like
Sons. That would be a good one too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we want to be. We would love to be. I think Alice in Chains is really... Tesla's supposed to release early in next year, and I kind of spoke to a couple of guys in that band and tried to get on that, and we'll see what happens with that. That
would be a good one. They're coming here to Tucson on the 28th of this month. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, their new record, they're really happy with it. It was produced by Def Leppard, so I can't wait to hear it. It's supposed to be great.
Yeah, you guys with Tesla, that would be really badass, and they're going to be here on the 28th of September. Definitely looking forward to that because it's going to be a full headlining show. You know, they were out with, I think, Styx and Joan Jett for a little bit. So, and, the other cool thing, Frank Hannon was here about 3 or 4 months ago, the Frank Hannon Band, and so many people I think don't realize what a great musician he is, not just a great guitar player. I mean, that guy kills it, dude.
But I've always thought that he was a great guitar. Like in Tesla, his parts were always so well orchestrated and beautifully voiced, and he's very talented.
Let me tell you, as a DJ, it's hard to keep up with everything that comes out.
Fortunately,
can't really
rely on the radio anymore.
Well, fortunately, dude, like the radio station, the terrestrial radio station that I work for down here, 96.1 KLPX, they're coming up on their 40th anniversary, believe it or not. And, dude, you would love their format. Everything from some of the Beatles to Led Zeppelin through the 80s with Motley Crue and Bon Jovi and even the romantic stuff like that, even into the 90s, which, believe it or not, now think about it, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, it's 25 years or older, so it's kind of considered classic. So we play it, and then we also have a specialty show that comes on after Dee Snider's House of Hair. It's called Saturday Night Loud, and we've got a local guy that does it for about 3 hours, and we do put on new music, and I can guarantee you, dude, Red Dragon Cartel is going to be on there. I guarantee you.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, our music director.
I don't even have a radio in my truck.
You what? You don't have a radio?
No, I don't. It's just I wait for things to find me. Like people will play me stuff and, oh, have you heard this? And check that out, and but I don't really search for new music.
Yeah.
I let it find me.
Yeah. Well, I'll start turning you on to stuff.
Just email me.
Yeah.
The Red Dragon Cartel record is pretty special. It's like I've when we were making it, I haven't felt this way since when we were making Wicked. It's special, and I just hope people hear it. I don't care if they buy it or not. I just want them to hear it. Well, we already made one song, a video for the first single. Now we're doing a lyric video for the second song, and then we're going to do 2 more videos. That's almost half the record. There's only 10 songs on the record. We're going to have 4 videos on YouTube.
So the other stuff better be really killer and not filler, right?
There's no filler.
All right, man. That's what I want to hear. All killer.
I mean, for a year and a half, I mean, we took our time, which in this day and age is not the norm. Like, bands don't take a year and a half to make a record anymore. And the label was screaming at us, and everybody was screaming at us, and everybody's like, when are you guys going to be done? When's it going to be done? When are we going to hear it? I'm like, it's done when Jake says it's done.
There you go.
And the label, God, they hated us. I mean, we missed like 5 deadlines, and they were really mad at us. And we're like, this CD is going to last forever. This CD is going to be around long after we're dead. And it's got all our names on it, and it matters, and we care, and it's done when it's done,
Well, dude, honestly, I think the true fans could probably hear if something's rushed. Some of these bands that are like one and done, kind of thrown together, and you hear it, it's kind of generic sounding. Some of it,
The big supergroup band guy. I've always been a band member. Even when like I was playing with Ace, it kind of had the vibe of a band, even though Ace called a shot. Same thing with Jake. It's like, it's kind of got the vibe of a band, but it's Jake, it's Jake's band. But I'm a band member. Like, I'm not, I don't really, the supergroup one-off, bass player for this band, guitar player for, that stuff never got me. I never floated my boat,
Well, again, I'm looking forward to hearing it, dude. I really am. I mean, that's probably one of my most anticipated albums because it has taken so freaking long. But, dude, if it's worth the wait, then I'm all for it.
Well, did you like the first single?
Yeah, dude, again, like I said, I just had to give some shit about Jake smoking through the whole damn thing.
Oh my God, so many.
It has a cool freaking groove going to it, it's a jam.
I mean, that's the whole thing about there's different stuff on it. There's the guitar riff kind of rock stuff, but there's other departure. The other songs go to different directions and down different musical avenues, and it's not a one trick pony record by any means. But like I said, we took our time and really put effort and thought into everything that's on it.
How many bass solos are on it?
Well, does a bass solo qualify as the intro to a song? Or I think it start off one song, and then under Jake's playing like solos, I could always do it. It's like there's some latitude that you can get away with there. I'm not doing my 8th notes the whole record like I usually do.
I want to hear 30-second notes, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
With your fingers. With your fingers.
Anything I can do with a pick, I can do with my fingers.
Well, that's good to have that versatility. Let me ask you this. Do you switch between both when you play live or on the record, or are you just one or the other?
Yes.
Because there's definitely tonality differences,
Yes. I actually played on like 3 or 4 of the songs. I played fretless as well.
Oh, no way.
Because I played fretless on the Lynch, on Wicked Sensation.
Did you really? What songs?
Yeah. For a Million Years has fretless on it, and then I think the ballad too, Through These Eyes, has fretless on it. But I played fretless on like 3 or 4. The thing when Jake was in Ozzy's band, Bob Daisley used to play fretless sometimes against Jake solo, and Jake liked it. So I was like, I can play it,
Well, that's cool, dude. I never knew that about Wicked because For a Million Years is one of my favorite songs off of that.
Yeah, it's one of my.
That's
favorites.
a great freaking song. So now
I do these right-handed rubs, like. there's all that kind of stuff in there.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen, pay attention to the bass lines now, really, and see if I can, kind of differentiate.
Yeah, well, listen to the CD, and that way, don't go by what they play live now.
Well, I'll put
That's my little dig.
I'll put my badass Bang & Olufsen headphones on and crank up the CD.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, this fellas. I mean, I basically played 3 basses on the whole entire CD, and and yeah, I mean, he's had some great bass players in his career. Bob Daisley being, like, probably out of all the bass players that he's played with, Bob Daisley would be my favorite. He's a special player that his name doesn't get mentioned in the conversation as much as it should be. And so I kind of like approached it a little bit with that in mind, what would Bob try to do underneath this solo or whatever, like I admire his playing, so.
Well, he's played with the greats, man. I mean, geez, Randy and Jake and Gary Moore, and I mean, geez. Plus, he's a great songwriter, isn't he?
Yeah, lyrics and melodies,
What'd you think? I'm sure I already know the answer, but that bullshit where they took Bob Daisley's bass, and I think was it who was the drummer, and they redid those 2 albums.
Yeah, I know, it's horrible. Lee Kerslake, it's horrible.
That's right. I could not think of that dude's name. Thank you.
Yeah, they recut it. Now you don't know whether you're buying the real one or not. It's ridiculous.
Well, if you pay attention, you can tell.
Yeah.
I know you could, dude.
Yeah.
I think, you know what
Max,
I think?
Actually, Max didn't have either one of those CDs. So when he came out to the studio, he's like, I have books and books and books of CDs. So when, like, you're mixing, you could throw up a CD for reference to hear, and A/B what you're doing against that, tonality-wise and all that. And Max, he's like, I don't have Blues of the Balls or Diary of a Madman on CD anymore. And I was like, he's like, can I borrow yours? I'm like, because I know yours are the original ones. So I'm like, yeah, all right. And so I had a load.
There you go.
Crazy.
Well, there's one other thing before I forget. When you're not doing the Red Dragon Cartel stuff, and you're not, like, driving a tractor or whatever the hell you do out there.
Today I was so weird. I was driving a tractor today. I was tilling. I have about 4 or 5 acres of woods, and I'm tilling it down and cutting down some trees. I'm going to make, like, a par 3 golf course, like a 3-hole golf course with a lake. So I was down there just tilling, trying to kill all the weeds and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I produce a lot of bands. There's a lot of bands come out to the studio, and I record them and produce them, and a lot of baby bands. I work with the band Tantric. But yeah, no, it's like, I love making music. And even in the case of, like, new bands, baby bands, new bands, upstart bands, it's great to help them get better and to help them achieve what they're hearing in their head and get it on recorded the way they want it, and they hear it, and offer some alternatives or guidance on parts and melodies or whatnot, and help them and just make it sound good. That's what I've been doing, basically, is producing. Bands come out and they stay on the ranch, and I'm incredibly reasonably priced, and they come out here and they just crash at my house and record it on the ranch and make music.
So it's kind of like oh God, what was the Ozzy, the farm that Ozzy?
Yeah, Ridge Farm, exactly.
There you go. I was going to say
Jake and Max.
I was going to say Pepperidge Farm.
Yeah, Pepperidge Farm.
The cookies.
Jake and Max both said it reminded me of that.
That's awesome, man. And it's got to be really satisfying what you're just talking about, where you can help, like you said, these upstart bands, they got an idea in their head and they don't know what to do with it, and you help them get that into the music, and so you play it back and they're like, yeah, that's it. That's got to be really cool, right?
Well, a lot of them don't even know how good they are or what they can do, what they're capable of doing. So, like, what I usually do is I'll go to rehearsals before we record and just sit there, and when they hit a spot in the song, I'll go, stop. I'm like, can you try going here, try this, try doing this. And then they'll start over and they'll do it, and they get to that point and they'll try it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it leads to something that they'll think of because I threw that out there to bring them down a different, and they grow, and a lot. Perception is everything, and how you perceive a song, and how you approach the writing of a song, and get on the same page, and the kick drum and the kick drum hi-hat pattern, and what bass player is playing against that, and nota-wise. There's so many different things that you could tweak to make, fictional. You can tweak to make flow or groove, or that it's nice to sort of give them options, and then you see the light bulbs go off over their heads. The term was recording artist, and we're in a generation right now, the voice in American Idol, and it's like a karaoke. It's ridiculous. Like, people need to write and express their, and think about how much music we would have lost if like Eddie Van Halen, they did covers mixed in with their own stuff, and they made the covers their own.
And I think that's always really cool when a band does that. They take a song that maybe they were influenced by or whatever, and they kind of take it to the next level. And it's, I've heard some that are kind of like, oh boy, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of musicians are in cover bands. Like, you go to bars and you're crowded with all act with these bands that just do covers. I mean, if I want to hear that song covered, I'll just play it on the jukebox. I don't get it. Like, I don't think people initially were drawn to the guitar or the bass or the drums or whatever, say, when they first started playing, I'm going to be in a great cover band. Like, it just, to me, we're missing a lot. There's a lot of amazing musicians out there, talented songwriters that never take a stab at saying what they need to say in their own voice. No, I mean, like, people play guitar differently. People say things in their own words differently, and if you're playing a cover, you're playing somebody else's words,
right?
Playing somebody else's part, and it's like, why? I don't understand it.
I don't see myself as a musician, right? I'm a DJ. I can mix. I can do this. I can do that. I've got ideas, but one of the cool things that I had made for me was a buddy of mine. His name's Bruce Bray, right? And he lives in Phoenix. And he had this song that he had written back in the 80s, and it almost has kind of like a Mr. Scary thing going on to it. But anyway, just a really cool riff, and he never knew what he wanted to do with it. And I talked about wanting a theme song for my Headbangers, right? So he gave it to me, and with my ideas, and a few of my ideas, and then guys like Steve Conley from Flotsam and Jetsam, and who's played with David Ellefson in F5, and then John Aquilino from Icon, and this guy named Randy who does a lot of recording and stuff. They took this song and put ideas to it along with what I kind of suggested. So they came up with this song that's got David Ellefson on bass through the whole thing. You got Wild McBrown and Ken Mary on drums. You got George Lynch on the bridge and the outro solo. You got John Aquilino, Steve Conley, and Nick Bocott from Grim Reaper, believe it or not, and Christian Lee Vasquez from a local band in Phoenix. And it's this instrumental that I don't think I've ever sent to you. I can't remember if I did, but I'm going to have to send it to you, dude, for you to check out. And that is something I'm really proud of because it's mine. I kind of helped in the process, but all these friends came together to help me, and they made this fucking thing that's, to me, it's priceless. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
I get what you're saying, kind of.
DJs are super creative too. I mean, I love the mashups. Like some of the mashups guys do. They're incredible. I mean, but they're doing things and making their own voice out of it. Like the whole genre of rap, all they did was take things and put their own voice to it. But I mean, that's still being musical. It's still being creative.
You're breaking up again.
It's still being musical and it's still being creative,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, some of the stuff that people come up with some of those mashups and stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, how the hell did they think of that?
They're amazing. I mean, they're awesome. I love it. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to be creative when you're in a cover band. Yep.
Well, and the other thing that I want to mention that you do, and I remember you telling me about it, and I watched. It was Yellow Card, right, on MTV, and there were your credits. You do set designs.
Yeah, I just did. I work for an amazing company called Largent Studios. Kevin Largent is my boss, and he's like one of the most insanely talented set designers there is, and I basically art direct for him and help him achieve his vision. And we've done everyone. We just did Nicki Minaj for this Freedom Festival in Philadelphia last weekend, and we did her set for the VMAs for MTV. And we've done everybody from Bowie to I mean, Ministry, The Killers.
Wow.
I mean, I go on and on. J-Lo, Mariah Carey. I mean, pretty much everybody in the business we've done a set for Korn. But the yellow card thing was, we used to do all the sets for MTV2. Had this show called $2 Bill, where it would be $2 bill shows all over different theaters and different cities, different bands, and we did a bunch. We did Little John, and I mean, we've done tons of sets for MTV and tons of sets for. He's so talented, and yeah, so I basically help with that. I work for Largent Studios and art direct, and put my 2 cents in for set design every once in a while.
Well, that's really cool, because a lot of people don't realize that, these musicians, they use their creativity in other aspects, and the fact that you do. And when you texted me about Nicki Minaj, I was like, wait, what? That cracked me up.
Yeah, we did that. It was the Freedom. No, it was called the Made in America Festival. It was last weekend, and it was in Philadelphia. Right, her stage was right in front of the steps where Rocky ran up.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. The stage is right at the foot of the steps in front of the art museum.
Did you get to hang out with Nicki? Did she tell you her love for Miley Cyrus?
No, actually, I didn't speak to her at all. I was too busy working. I was too busy laying high gloss dance floor.
You're probably better off.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I tell you, one artist that we did all the sets for Storytellers and Unplugged, all those Unplugged. We did Alicia Keys for Storytellers. Kevin designed this beautiful set, and she was such a beautiful soul, great person, so talented.
She is.
We did Florence and the Machine, Unplugged. That set was great. I mean, we've done so many. We did all the reunion shows for the Real Worlds. And we're always busy. It's a busy job.
Well, that's good, dude. It keeps you busy. I mean, all right, you got Red Dragon Cartel, so you're dealing with Jakey Lee. I mean, right there, that's got to be pretty busy. And then you driving around your tractor and tilling stuff.
I wish Red Dragon was busier. Red Dragon it has its moments where it gets busy, then we kind of chill out, then we'll get busy again, then we'll chill out. Now we're kind of like in this ebb period where, the recording's done, the first video shot. I think we have to shoot 3 more videos before we can tour. And I don't know anything about where those are going to be shot or whatnot. The last one was shot in my barn, and my buddy Joe Gorelick, who's an incredible director, he did all the art on the record and he directed the video and everything. And I've worked. I also do art direction on TV commercials and stuff, and I've worked with him on a bunch of commercials, and he's always been a great director. So when the opportunity came, I was like, oh, we should use Joe. And he's also a drummer, and he did work with Stuart Copeland and a couple documentaries with him, and he's a good drummer, so he's got that musician's perspective, which is good for a video director,
Well, dude, what else do you want to mention, man? I mean, what else do you want people to know about Anthony Esposito?
I mean, basically, the one thing that besides Red Dragon Cartel, which I'm a one-band guy. I'm in Red Dragon Cartel now until Jake decides he doesn't want me in the band anymore, or he decides he doesn't want to do music anymore. But that's my only focus musically, as far as playing and being in the band, is Red Dragon Cartel. And then I produce, and then the studio is called Obscenic Arts. It's in Pennsylvania, and I just love working with bands. And any bands want to contact me, and they want to fly out or drive out or stay with me and work on a CD, I'd love that. I'm very easy to contact. I'm on my own Facebook page, and just message me on there, and I always reply. And I love working with new bands. I love working with nationals, any kind. A day in the studio is a good day, you know. For me, I love making music.
So there you go. Just the easiest way would be to hit you up on Facebook.
Yeah, just look me up. I'm right there, and I accept all messages.
He even accepts my
text me
my inappropriate pictures.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Awesome. Find another Mustang so I could buy it.
Yeah. I drag out the process of buying a Mustang for about 8 years, and then when you're finally ready, it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Story of my life.
Yeah. Well, Anthony Esposito, Red Dragon Cartel, looking forward to the new album. And what's the name of it?
Patina.
Right. And that is, tell people what patina is.
Well, patina is kind of like that blue stuff that forms on copper when it gets old and oxidizes,
Yeah.
like Statue of Liberty. Also, patina like forms on wood. It forms on anything. It's basically the aging process makes patina happen, and we're all aged, seasoned musicians at this point. Then we have a lot of patina on ourselves as well. You know?
That's a good way to put it there, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Good answer. So that's coming out on November 9th. You think we'll definitely look forward to that. So thanks so much for gabbing at me, dude. It's been a while. Great to catch up with you.
My pleasure. Anytime you want. And please, I hope all your listeners at least listen to it.
Yeah.
It deserves a listen. It's a special CD, and we're really proud of it.
I'll pimp the hell out of it.
Awesome. Thanks again, Mike.